Welcome to the Atlanta Sci-Fi Film Festival's panel discussion on cinematography and set photography. Joining me today is Mike Deletore, also known as Mike D, a Nicaraguan-born cinematographer who's been chosen in 2020 for the Rising Stars of Cinematography from the American Society of Cinematographers. His credits include Guardians of the Galaxy, Brightburn, The Hive, and Books of Blood, just to name a few. Also joining me is Boris Martin, a Hungarian-American unit photographer born and raised in Budapest, Hungary, and currently living right here in Atlanta, and holds dual citizenship in both countries. Boris specializes in portrait and unit still photography for motion picture industry and network television. His credits include Watchmen, Senior Year, Jungle Cruise, The Last Kingdom, Brightburn, Inferno, and Atomic Blonde. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, for having us.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And by the way, my name is Amanda Ray, the organizer of the Atlanta Sci-Fi Film Festival. I'm going to be moderating the panel today. So I'm kicking it off with a couple of questions that I have here. That, I am dying to be asking you guys. We've been talking for a while about both your professions and, what you do, which is so important and so great. But I want to make sure everybody else is well aware of what you do and the importance of it, especially for a lot of people I know who are thinking about going into being a cinematographer or a unit photographer. And either one of you can go first. I guess, Boris, you can start. To kind of explain what you do and the importance of it to the filmmaking process.
Well, again, I'm a unit still photographer. I'm working on film sets, either movie, like television, network series, or feature films. And my job is to document with still images, basically whatever happens behind the scenes. That's behind the scenes photography or BTS, and everything else for marketing purposes. Basically, I'm recording the same thing what the camera sees, and also whatever else I can see. Basically, tell the story about the film or the project or the production I'm working on. Thinking about how to sell and promote the film. So basically, I have to capture images which would be interesting for the audience, and they would say, well, they see the pictures and they say, well, okay, I'm going to see this film or TV series or whatever. And usually, the still photographers' images are the first contact with the public, with the general public, whatever they see about a particular project. Either it's online or printed media or whatever else, but usually the first images coming out of the particular project are by the still photographer. So that's basically what I do.
I have a quick follow-up question though that I just thought of. So is it safe to say that for your line of work, it's best, if you're going to be a unit photographer, a still photographer, it's best to kind of have some idea of marketing and promotion and kind of just study and see how different key art images and poster images are being used for films, and just kind of already have that in your head before you even go on the set to try and shoot? Is that safe to say?
Yes and no. Obviously, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not a marketing guru. I don't know much about marketing at all. But what I do know is, and what I see is, I see key moments. When I see the performance right in front of me or right in front of the cameras, I can pinpoint the key moments which worth to capture and which would pique the interest of the audience. I would say you would have to have some kind of storytelling ability with your photographs. So lots of still photographers coming from a photojournalistic background or street photography or something like that, where they essentially do the same thing. There is something going on. They're covering an event or some sort of an activity, and they try to capture key moments of that particular happening, so the audience would know what's that thing all about. So it's not so much marketing knowledge; it's more like recognizing defining moments. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Michael, you are up. What is it that you do?
That's a good, the director of photography or cinematographer. As the director of photography, I help the director with their vision of the film visually. So with the camera and the lighting. So directors will tell me, we want a certain feel to the movie, a certain look as far as the lighting, as far as the color, as far as the camera movements and things like that. And I work with them to try to help have their vision come to life. I run basically 3 departments under me, which is the camera department, the lighting department, and the grip department. All 3 of those departments basically are under me, and when I need to figure out how to do the shots, that's who I go to. There's a lot of like I come up with kind of a lot of ideas, but I have to count on these trade, these great crafts crew people to like actually execute it for me. But in conjunction, I also have to work with every department because hair, makeup, wardrobe, production design, very heavily involved with all of them, just to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're trying to make the same film, and that if I do something interesting like with a red light and it doesn't work with the wardrobe or with I've had it with the set and things like that, so I have to make sure everything kind of works together with all those other departments too.
Awesome. That's really, really cool. That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of work too.
Yeah.
No wonder you're always busy.
Yeah.
Not just doing your part, but then also working with all those other people is definitely a lot. So what is the hardest lesson that you both have learned in your field? Like, whether you're still learning it now, or if you might have learned it, when you first started, like what was the one lesson you're thinking you may come up with that you were, it was a very difficult lesson to learn, but necessary?
I think that it's okay to be wrong. I've sometimes been wrong with how I wanted to set something up or something, and instead of saying stop, we're going to completely change this, I'd continue, and then it turned out to be more wrong. So it just one of those things where like after I learned that, it was like, all right, next time I feel that something isn't going to be working the way it should, or it didn't work the way I thought it was going to, it's like, all right, sorry guys, or sorry crew, we have to change this whole thing around. give me a minute. Sometimes you don't have a minute, unfortunately, but sometimes you do, and you say, hey, I need to redo this. And most directors especially, and even assistant directors who are basically running the clock and telling us how much time we have, they know that if I'm asking for something, it's because it's a dire need and things like that. So, but yeah, don't be afraid to be wrong. It's like, oh, I was wrong, cool, now how do I do it right the next time?
Yeah, I can totally see why you would be. I would think I'm going to get fired. Like I'd be like, you really think you're going to get in trouble or cost the more money or more time, or you always would think that. So yeah, that is a huge lesson. What about you, Boris?
Oh, well, the hardest lesson I learned was, it's kind of like a joke, that nobody really recognizes the importance of the still photographer until the end of the film. Usually they don't know how cool you are until the wrap party. because nobody really knows what we do. They don't see our photographs, or they don't, I mean, if you do your job good as a still photographer, they don't see you much at all. Because our job is to remain in the background and be as a little distraction as humanly possible. Because In all honesty, or if I want to be harsh on us, still photographers are not essential to the day-to-day operation of a film set, because we are not adding anything productive per se, creating the film. Our importance is coming after the film is done, and when the marketing department needs photographs to market the film, or the publicity department needs images of the crew and cast, and also they want to sell the film, or whatever else might be. Usually other departments are asking for photographs at the end of the film. Oh, I want to get this, I want to get that, for their portfolio or whatnot, but mainly the publicity and marketing. So that was the hardest lesson I learned. But mostly like old school people, like doing films or making films for a long time, they know exactly what the value of a good still photographer. And it would be nice if up and coming filmmakers or newer generation, I'm talking the 20s and 30s, they would learn the importance of still photography and still photographers, because still images are not going away. And our work is very, very critical to a film. So that was the hardest lesson I learned.
Yeah, I can only imagine too, especially if you're young and you're like, oh, I'm going to be this hot photographer and I'm going to have all these people in my face on set. You're in the middle of seeing all these actors, especially if you get like a big gig, right? And you get, to work with some really big actors and directors and things. I can totally see them thinking that they're going to be like, having women trying to, or people just after them and trying to, they're not the star. And it's definitely an ego bust, for them to be like, oh, okay, I'm not the star here. Or,
well, if you become a still photographer, then you're not supposed to have ego. You're supposed to be very, very humble and be able to adapt and work with everybody on set, because you have to have access to certain things, like to the green room, or if I take pictures of, for instance, the cinematographer, they wouldn't get pissed or annoyed because they understand those images are valuable and it's going to be used later, and it's quite useful. So
how thick did your skin need to be? And I'll ask this for both of you in your line of work, as someone of color, someone, coming from, a different background, and how thick does your skin need to be whenever you're on set? And people may not know your value at first, you know what I mean? And you still have to, prove that or show them your worth. They always talk about your skin needs to be thick in Hollywood or just in the film industry business, period. But I think most people think more of the actor or certain people, and they're not thinking of the rest of the crew and the cast and other folks. So what has been your experience in the industry?
It's definitely not an easy thing to do, like from whichever position it is, from PAs to the director, it's equally as difficult and time consuming, and also it takes a lot of your life, in the sense of time and opportunities to, right now there's this whole thing going on, which it's always been a thing, but they're pushing a lot for more common sense time, instead of 14-hour days, or instead of 12-hour days, doing 10-hour days, things like that, because we miss out on a lot of stuff. So there's that part of it, and then there is the part of it as you're coming up, that people will, no matter what, will there's going to be can I curse? there's going to be assholes on set no matter what, and sometimes those people are going to be your boss.
Yeah.
And you may be like, I was a loader and I had a first assistant who was like that, just mean, just drove you, and then I see that sometimes too. It's a lot better now, but then there's also, like, as myself as the DP, I have to answer to, the very top. I have to answer to the director and the producers and the studio. And that can be very tough because, they hired you to produce a certain product. And if you're not producing that product, you can get fired. So you almost have to just understand sometimes when they give you, harsh notes or stuff like that, it's not always personal. It's just the business that they have to, like, they're trying to, like, produce something. It's hard for it not to be personal because you're putting so much of your life into it, and it's you're creating something, so it's hard not to do that. So yeah, that's where definitely the thick skin comes in, because you're making something and someone goes, I don't like it, it's crap, and you're like, I just made this, it's beautiful. And
You're telling me my baby is ugly?
yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that, and then there's a lot of the work, the amount of physical and mental work that has to be put into it. You gotta have some thick skin for that also.
Well, thick skin. Yes and no. I don't like to be disliked. Let's start with that. So I'll try to be as nice as possible to everybody, and I love to be on set, honestly. And as Mike was saying, there are some assholes you have to work with, and you don't have to like them, but you have to learn how to work with them, because you have to drop your ego for the common goal. And the common goal is to create a film, to create a product which people would enjoy and would carry a message or whatever, depending on the project. But what I'm trying to do is I try to be, again, as nice as possible to anyone and everybody, and just enjoy my time on set. I'll try to avoid conflicts. My job is a whole lot more easier in that aspect than Mike's, because Mike responsible for a whole lot of people. So obviously he have to delegate people. That could be, can carry some frictions. But me, I just have to be in the background and just be smooth and just get out of the way. That's it. That's all I have to do. And if I do that successfully, then people usually don't dislike me or don't hate me, and they give me access. For that, I don't have to have a thick skin. I just have to learn how to work with difficult personalities. That's it. That's all I have to do. I don't have to suck up or anything like that. And people don't like that anyway. Nobody likes to suck up. But giving them respect. Hopefully, they're gonna give me respect. And so far, it works.
Nice. And it seems like, those are, qualities that anyone needs to have, no matter what your field is, right? Being able to get along with different personalities and navigate different personalities and still be able to be true to yourself without compromising your own, rules or, however you, work. But, at the same time, I just kind of feel like, it's definitely the business. It's a tough business. You're very lucky to be in it and to stay as busy as you both are. So, those are just things that I think anybody coming into the business need to definitely get that out of their skin, get that out, first before even starting. But yeah, those are things that I think we all need to do anyway, and no matter what field you're in. So I think, and then the other thing I was thinking about is, like, you guys are not working with these people forever. There are people who are sitting on jobs for 20 years having to navigate those personalities every day coming in, but you guys are on set for a certain amount of time and working with those folks. And you kind of may or may not run into them again. Obviously you want to keep good relations regardless, but you're not stuck, for 20 years or something like that, working with these personalities. So that's a good thing. And I'm pretty sure in this business, you see people come and go, all the time. But do you guys remember your very first break in the business?
I've had a couple of breaks as far as, like they're all monumental in a way. My biggest break recently that landed the most was Brightburn.
Mm-hmm.
That was 3 years ago now. And that was through working with the director David Yarovesky, who I've known for like 16 years now. And we would do music videos like, once a month on the weekend, things like that. Just we built a relationship, became good friends. And when the opportunity came that he had his first feature was called The Hive, shot that. And then when Brightburn came up, that was a huge opportunity in that, James Gunn being attached, and Elizabeth Banks and everyone who was attached to it was really big. And it got me an agent, and a lot of people saw it. So it was definitely my big break. That took, honestly, I was my job at the time was working at Panavision, and I left there 2 years ago, having been there for 18 years. So, it took a while to get to that break, but that, it was the right time, I guess, and and it was a good break.
Yeah, it sounds like you were in a good line of fire too, working with Panavision and meeting people and knowing everything about cameras. And I think that experience definitely was very, very helpful in not only landing this, but just in your job and what you do, right? So everything that you learned at Panavision and all those cameras came in handy all those years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. What about you, Boris? What was your first big break?
Well, I didn't have big breaks. I had small breaks, and it was kind of gradual. My background, my photography background, is in the entertainment industry. For a while, after I moved to New York from Budapest, I was working for a music photo agency. I was shooting musicians as they perform. So I learned the pressure there, and act quickly, because when I started to work with that agency, they assigned me to certain shows like concerts or whatever. And then usually when you go to a show like that, you don't have all the time to shoot the performers on stage. Usually you have 3 songs and that's it. And then you have to clear the place. You're not supposed to be there anymore. Or if you shoot a really big star like Green Day when they were coming up back then, we got some 30 seconds or so, and that was it. So we had to shoot really, really fast. And back then it was film, like celluloid. And I was working with two different cameras. One of them was automatic, like an autofocus and all that. The other one was fully manual. So I had to learn everything to do very, very quickly. But anyhow, I got into the film industry on 2009, 2010, and I was a driver back in Budapest, and I was wandering aimlessly actually at that time. I didn't have any plans to work in the film industry or anything like that. But basically, the opportunity just fell on my lap, and I took it. And I was driving a few really big stars like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie or whatever for about a year or two, and then I switched to the electrical department, so I became Sparky. And over in Europe, basically, the electrician's doing whatever the grip does here, and the electrician. So they do both departments. Grip only responsible for camera movement. Everything else is the electricians, the light placement, cables, filters, flags, and so on. And I was working on a film, and one day I got a phone call that they were looking for an assistant photographer for the main shooter at Inferno with Tom Hanks and Ron Howard. And so I went there, and it was supposed to be for 2 or 3 days. But the second day, I asked the main shooter, his name is Jonathan Prime. He's an excellent shooter. He's based in London. And I begged him to let me cover the second unit, which was a dream sequence in the film. It was a war scene. Visually gorgeous, perfectly lit, and the costumes and everything else. It was crowded, 3 cameras. And so he gave me a camera, and he was like, okay, off you go, cover it, whatever. Just get out of my hair. So I did. And at the end of the day, I showed him my work, and he was like, damn, I should have been there. Wow. So he came out, and he was like, you know what, you're gonna stay. And he kept me on the film until they left the country and they went to Berlin where they finished up the film. So I was on in the last month or so, I don't know how many weeks, but yeah. So that was my big break. And I realized then that this is awesome, because before what this happened, I did photography, and after a while I got bored because I was shooting the same thing. You know, always the same thing. You know, people performing on the stage, whatever. You know, after a while you get a hang of it, and then you rarely miss. And there is no challenge in it. But on the film set, on the other hand, on the film set, you shoot everything, absolutely everything, all aspects of photography, and it's very, very challenging because you have to. When the director asks you, okay, hey, it's pitch black outside, and it's just happened to me just recently. Night scene. And the director asked, hey, take pictures that it would look like it was taken during daylight. Sounds like, okay, no problem. I figured it out.
What?
And I had about 10 or 15 minutes to think how I'm gonna perform it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna achieve that. And at the end of the session, I showed her the pictures, and she was like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So there you go. So I love challenges like that, or shooting portraits or sets or food or whatever else you can possibly imagine. Everything happens on the film set, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It keeps me on my toes. There's always a new challenge, and I'm constantly learning, and it's just fantastic. I absolutely love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. I love hearing that, because I mean, so many people spend their lives wishing they can find their passion in something that they love and wake up every day to do something that they enjoy. So that's extremely inspiring. That's inspiring to me as well. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's really cool. So we mentioned, or I don't know if I mentioned this before, but you both obviously worked on Brightburn.
Yep.
And I think that's when you met for the first time. Is that correct, on set?
Yes. Yes.
And I didn't know that when I both asked you guys.
Oh, wow.
I looked up. Yeah, I had no clue, because Mike, I found you through Panavision, who they're going to be doing a panel in a couple of days as well. And then I already knew Boris a couple of years now. And so it was just by sheer coincidence that I happened to ask about. And I think I even forgot that Boris worked on Brightburn when I knew Michael did. So then I was just like, it dawned on me. I was like, wait a minute, do y'all know each other?
Yeah, that was a cool project.
Yeah, a small world, especially because it was shot here in Atlanta. But so you both got that gig, and I just kind of wanted to ask, for a lot of people who again are looking to break into the field. With this business, it's obvious that it's about relationships, right? Is that the main way to get gigs? I mean, I know, Mike, you said something about you was friends with the director for many years, and obviously that was a relationship build. Boris, I don't know how you were able to land the gig with Brightburn, but I'm assuming it's just kind of relationships, or does it go through a particular person that you get, through an agent or someone?
Yeah, I would say it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Or who knows you?
It sounds negative, but it's not actually. It's based on common sense, because obviously you're gonna pick people you like to work with, because you don't want to spend with someone you don't like 12 or 14 hours every single day. So yeah, it's who you know. Yes, absolutely, and you need to build up your network of people. And having said that, but when you get to the point when you start to work together and you have to perform, if you don't perform, usually if that happens, it don't save you. So you have to perform. So you have to be on a certain level. There are a certain amount of expectations, whatever position you're working in. And even though you're, let's say, a political hire, I can see that it's not politically correct, but that's what it is. I'm sorry. My computer is shutting off constantly. But that's all it's about. Relationships, and you want to work with people you like, and pick those people on the basis of your relationship with them, and also their knowledge. Because let's say if you like someone but they can't complete their task or do their job well, then and that's a stain on your name, and obviously that person will get fired eventually. I don't know if you agree, Mike, but
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think it definitely, who you know is kind of like the beginning part, you know, because that kind of gets you established, you know, building. I tell people whenever I have people ask me like, how do they get into the business and this and that, and how do you become a DP? And I just say you have to build a community of people that will grow with you, and you will grow with them, so that when opportunities arise, you know, those people will, you know, take you on those projects. You'll take those people on those projects with you. And then what ends up happening, for, you know, in the case of like Brightburn, it's like, you know, I got signed to an agency, and then I got a couple of jobs through an agency, not knowing anyone. You know, and then my last 2 jobs have been through people I know. So it varies. It does help, you know, once you like, you know, once you do a job, there's another branch of contacts there that you're developing. Because like Boris said, it's like, you know, if you go in there, you do a great job and you have a great attitude, people want to work with you again. They'll remember that, and on the next project try to bring you on and so forth. You know.
So I actually have a friend who actually worked with MCSFO as an intern. His name is Mike Zethrin. He is a budding young photographer, and he is looking to possibly go into unit photography. He also loves cinematography as well. And I have a couple of questions from him. So what is or was the biggest surprise to you about being a set photographer? And this obviously goes to Boris. Was there any surprises that you experienced on being a set photographer?
No, and it's not me being cocky here. It's just since because I used to worked on sets before on quite big films. Because I started to work in the film industry in Budapest, and usually all the, you know, huge productions go there, like the Dune, for instance, your next project that was shot there, and Atomic Blonde was shot there, The Martian was shot there, and so many other productions. Usually you get comfortable, or you learn a lot. Your learning curve is really steep because you work with the very best. And so there was no surprise because, as I said, my entry to the film industry was gradual. So I got a chance to learn and adapt and learn and adapt. While I was an electrician, I was watching other still photographers, how they work, how they move, what they do, how they communicate. I was studying them, especially Jonathan. And he's great. He's the way he does his work is just, it's awesome. He's invisible. He's very low key, but he's always there. He's always capturing awesome images, which everybody loves. And so he was kind of like a role model for me. As soon as I switched to become a still photographer on film sets, I knew pretty much everything I have to do. Having said that, I'm learning every day, personalities, techniques, everything else. So yeah, I'm still going up. I'm not even close to where I want to be, but I do my very best to get there.
Nice. What about you, Mike? Any surprises you've experienced, or are you still experiencing them?
Oh yeah, no, I think you have to be ready for those surprises, or just, you know, it's constantly going to be, you know, something new every single time. So I think having that thought of like, you know, I'm not gonna do this exactly the same way every single time, is really important. So that you know, it also helps with when you're doing different kinds of projects. You know, I've done like 3 horror films, 2 dramas, and 2 comedies. So, and the project I'm doing right now is a romantic drama. So I'm not gonna attack the romantic drama the way I attacked Brightburn. So it's just always being aware that it's going to be different every time, and being open to that too, and saying like, okay, like this is different. How do I go about it, and getting out of your comfort zone to make that, really, really interesting, and as as true to the story as you could possibly can do.
Yeah, and I think with you, Mike, it's there's a whole lot of challenges, but there are no surprises really, because you expect those challenges and you try to adapt right away and come up with a solution right away.
Yeah,
that's part of the challenge. So you can't just stand there and be surprised. Hey, because there is a solution, and we all try to find it. And it's just that's the nature of the film people, and that's what that's one aspect I adore about film people.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen. They solve the problem and they come up with a solution and they carry on, and that is just so beautiful. I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have two quick questions before we go. And the first one is a little bit of a meaty question. Definitely want to, we've been in this pandemic for a while now, for a little over a year. And I know during that break was probably extremely stressful for you guys, especially when everything first came down. You knew nothing was getting shot and you're at home, and now everything is picked up again. And since you've been back to work, what has been the biggest changes that's going on now that you can talk about, aside from the standard safety procedures that's new, that everyone is pretty much already adapted to, but and this could be outside of COVID as well, because we also have this new challenge that Scarlett Johansson, has brought to everyone's attention. Not that it was anything new, but she really brought it to light about the whole little streaming, challenges with what is it called? The what is it called? The
new media.
New media, yeah, and that whole challenge. Like, so what has changed? What's different? I know those are two questions or two separate things. You have the pandemic on one hand, and then this whole new media fight on the other. But has it affected your work individually for both of you?
I mean, it definitely makes it a lot more difficult to work. Wearing a mask is kind of hard to communicate, both visually and verbally. So there's times where, sometimes you feed off of sometimes you're pitching ideas and you're feeding off of people's reactions, but if you don't see their face, it's really hard to see, to be like, do they like this? Do they not like this?
Eyes only, right? Like,
yeah, and that doesn't tell you enough, honestly. And then sometimes you say something and you understand what other limitations as far as just how the crew has to work with the zones and things like that. But once you get through that, it's kind of the same. At the end of the day, we still make something, and if we have fun, if we have fun with a mask on, then that's fine too. Hopefully we can get soon we can get away from not having to wear a mask all the time. But it's I think it's going to be a while, unfortunately. And when it comes to the new media stuff, I mean, that's kind of really tough because it's not new anymore. I mean, everyone's saying that's just really not. Everything from Zooms, like that are like the most popular thing now, the way to have meetings, to everyone's watching, or not everyone, but majority of people are watching things from home, so they're watching that. But even prior to that, there's companies like Netflix and Amazon and things like that. They had enough content that and enough business to know, like, okay, there's a business model there. So it's a matter of the unions and everyone kind of getting together and coming up with a new contract, I think.
As of me, it's hard to deal with optics when they're constantly fogging up because you're wearing masks and goggles and shields and whatnot. So it's difficult. It's difficult to shoot like that, and I'm pretty sure Mike knows about that because he's dealing with optics and cameras, and you have to frame the shots and everything else. It's kind of difficult when your face is all covered up. But there is one particular thing I don't like about COVID, aside from the obvious that it's horrible. Everyone's face is covered up with a mask, and so I used to enjoy to take BTS photographs, like whatever happens behind the scenes. And since the pandemic started, it's very difficult because everybody's the same. I'm sorry, so everybody's the same. You see a bunch of masks and you don't see faces. So I always look for the moments when someone takes off the mask just for briefly, to grab a bite or whatever, and try to snatch those moments. But usually they're not usable because obviously it's people grimacing when they eat or whatever. And so yeah, that's kind of a bummer because I enjoy to take BTS photographs so much because I can capture true moments, genuine moments when people are not aware of me and their surroundings. They're just feeling comfortable. They're doing their job or whatever, or they're having a discussion. Like for instance, I always shoot pictures of the DP, the director, how they interact, how these two people interact with the cast, the talent, and obviously the producers. And now it's just like everything out of the window because everybody's covered up, and I can't wait until it's over, and finally I can take some meaningful BTS photographs again. So, yeah.
Wow. It actually makes me think of a couple of articles that I'll see of the crew or like the director. I think one that comes to mind was Denis Villeneuve when he was shooting Blade Runner, and he was with Ridley Scott. It was him, Ridley Scott, and I forgot what the third person is right now. It's not coming to me. But they were, it was behind the scenes. They were behind the camera kind of trying to figure out and talking. We all know Ridley Scott was definitely right on there with Denis. He was right there by his side. And so we were able to get that shot in an article. So I can see what you're saying now, like, those types of shots that are used in articles, to see them on set. Now they'll have to find some other photos of them shooting a different film that may have to be used for a new film, right? They may have to use an old shot, with them on set. Then so maybe some of those older ones that they're probably going to be digging back in the folder now, looking for some random BTS footage, even from another film, to use, because like you said, you don't want to use the ones with masks. I mean, the ones with masks are still useful because we know where we are now, so you can use them sometimes. But yeah, I see what you're saying. That's tough.
Yeah, I always take pictures regardless of masks or not, because there are some interesting moments, regardless of the mask being covering up all everybody's faces. But it's not the same. It's not the same. I love to see emotions and reactions on people's faces. There are some beautiful moments to be captured, and I can't do that because, as Mike was saying, it's just a pair of eyes and a mask. That's it.
Right. So one last quick question, and then I'm definitely going to wrap up. We're definitely going to ask, you've seen, your fair share of actors by now. Is there anyone that you had to contain yourself? Because you're very professional guys, and you see people all the time or whatever. But was there someone that, you still contained yourself a little bit or needed to? Anybody that you can think of?
You can't say names.
Actually, then don't say names. Just say if you found someone that you admired, but you really couldn't say anything. And what did you do? I guess that might be one thing you can talk about. Like, what did you do to try to stay focused? Because this was the only person, or have you maybe not met that person yet or seen that person yet?
Yeah, I would say I haven't met those people yet. I've definitely worked with some actors that are up there and have, like, a lot of my respect. but I think what happens is you especially when you start to work with some of them, you start to realize that they're just people just like everyone else. And then they just, they act, just like other people, and you get a chance to talk to them and sometimes create like cool little, relationships. So, at first I think there could be a moment of a little bit of a, geek out factor, but then once you start to realize, oh, they're just, normal people, then it's that's always almost kind of like the most humbling part of it, and you're like, oh, cool, it's just, just a person.
Right, and then back
Yeah.
to like, oh, that's
I totally agree with Mike, every word, but I want to say something. Some of the actors and actresses, obviously there's a long list I want to work with, but it always mesmerizes me because yes, there are people, they're not extraordinary in any other way except they're good actors and actresses. But when I see the transformation in front of the camera, as soon as action,
right,
and they get into character, it's mesmerizing, and I love to watch it. And I feel so fortunate that I can see them through my viewfinder and capture them in their best moments. I love that. I love theater and live performances, and I absolutely adore these people, especially the giant actors. Their performance, it always gets me. It's just sometimes I just forget to take pictures. I just watch them, how they do their craft on a very high level, and it just amazes me. I love that.
Nice.
You can tell I'm totally in love with this industry. I really do. I really am. I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's infectious. I feel that though. I feel that, and that's what's so inspiring to be, like I said, in a field that you love, and you wake up every day just thankful and appreciative to be doing what you're doing every day. So you're both extremely inspiring. So I'm just honored to even have you guys on this panel, even share your experiences and what you do. Any quick projects you want to plug? We got like 2 minutes. Anything that you can plug? I don't know. There might be things that you cannot say, but anything?
Yeah, unfortunately, I got 2 projects that are pretty locked down right now as far as information goes. But yeah.
No worries. We'll just definitely look out for anything you guys got going on. I'm always a fan of both you guys' work and anything that you're doing. I know, Boris, you're pretty active on Instagram, and you always put your photos up on projects that you've worked on once they've come out.
Unfortunately, not often enough. I'm so bad when it comes to social media. I'm actually probably I'm very introvert person, and I don't share my life with people, but every now and then I post pictures. Yes, absolutely, because I'm proud of what I do, and obviously I want to share it with people. But then again, most of the time you're not allowed to share information until the project gets released, and then after that, usually you can share whatever. But it's something you don't want to talk about up and coming projects, because not publicly, because usually it's very hush hush, and for obvious reasons.
Gotcha. Well, I know. I definitely know those rules for sure. Thank you guys again so much for coming on the panel and talking with me today, and with the Atlanta Sci-Fi Film Festival. We really, really appreciate it. We wish you all the best of, more projects, and hope you stay just as busy as you are today. And hope everything goes well also with the unions and all the changes going on to, behind the scenes with Hollywood. But I wish you all the best. Thank you.